One of the reasons why cryptocurrency has evolved so quickly is because of competition, and nowhere is this competition more intense than in the smart contract crypto niche. Algorand is one of the few smart contract cryptocurrencies that has continued to raise the bar, and its ALGO coin is gaining popularity among crypto users and institutional investors alike. Today, I'm going to give you a bit of background about Algorand, bring you up to speed on some of the project's most important updates, and tell you why ALGO might have some long-term potential. Now, I know you want me to cut to the chase, but I need to tell you a bit about this place. If you're under the impression that I am a financial advisor, I assure you this is not the case. Education and entertainment are the only things you'll be getting from my face. Please contact a financial advisor if your portfolio is a disgrace. If this is the first time we bump into each other, my name is Guy and fiat currencies make me shudder. That's why I've made it my mission to research cryptocurrencies and share what I discover. Coins, tokens, news, reviews, and other topics that will make both of our brains buffer. If this is what you're after, subscribe to the channel and ping that notification bell to see just how much this channel has to offer. So, now that you know where I stand, let's get on with Algorand. If you're unfamiliar with Algorand, here's what you need to know. Algorand was founded by MIT professor Silvio Micali in 2017 and built by Algorand Inc., a software company based in the United States. Algorand's development is coordinated by the Algorand Foundation, a non-profit based in Singapore. Algorand raised over $126 million across various token sales in 2018 and 2019. A substantial amount of this money was subsequently returned to ICO investors as part of a buyback program. Thankfully, Algorand has since raised hundreds of millions of dollars more from various crypto VCs. More about that later. Algorand's mainnet went live in June 2019, and though the project is still in development, all core features and functionalities have been completed. Under the hood, the Algorand blockchain uses a novel proof-of-stake consensus mechanism called Pure Proof-of-Stake, which makes it possible to process around 11,000 transactions per second. The Algorand blockchain is currently secured by around 120 validator nodes, which select one of Algorand's many participation nodes to propose blocks pseudo-randomly based on stake. It's not clear how many participation nodes Algorand has, as this information is not currently available, but it is likely in the thousands, as it is quite easy to become a participation node. By contrast, becoming a relay node requires coordination with the Algorand Foundation, as well as more advanced hardware. Note that only around 20 of Algorand's relay nodes are run by entities not directly affiliated with the Algorand Foundation, but the Algorand Foundation is actively onboarding additional unaffiliated relay nodes, and around 20 more are scheduled to spin up any day now. Now, ALGO is the native cryptocurrency coin of the Algorand blockchain. It's used for staking, governance, and to pay for transaction fees. Participation nodes must stake a minimum of one ALGO to participate in consensus, and there is no lockup or unlock period, nor any slashing risks. Note that relay nodes do not stake any ALGO. According to the ALGO Explorer, ALGO staking rewards are currently just 0.06% per year, though ALGO staking rewards increase to around 7% with active governance participation, according to the ALGO rewards calculator. Algorand's governance mechanism is outside the scope of this video, but I will note that tens of thousands of Algorand users are participating in its governance process. You can learn more about the ins and outs of Algorand's governance using the link in the description. Transaction fees on Algorand cost a fraction of a cent, but because relay nodes do not earn these transaction fees, this makes it possible to use these fees for other purposes, and Algorand is currently exploring using a portion of all transaction fees to purchase carbon credits. More on that in a moment. Algorand's ecosystem can be accessed using the PeraAlgo mobile wallet, the MyAlgo wallet, or the Algo Signer browser extension wallet. According to the Algorand ecosystem website, there are about 300 projects building on Algorand. Around 10 of these dApps are DeFi protocols, which currently hold around $150 million in total value locked, according to DeFi Llama. On that note, if you're interested in exploring Algorand's rapidly growing ecosystem, you can check out my Algorand tutorial video using the link in the description. Now, it's been almost 8 months since I last covered Algorand, and it's safe to say that this video would have been a very long one if I'd waited any longer, because Algorand has been very busy. Shortly after my last update went out, Algorand announced the release of the Algorand virtual machine, opening the door to the next generation of dApps and DeFi protocols. In October, the Algorand Foundation announced that accelerated vesting for ALGO had completed. For those who don't know, accelerated vesting made it possible for early investors to sell lots of ALGO whenever its price pumped, so the end of this program was obviously very good news for ALGO holders. In November, the Algorand Foundation announced the first Relay Node running program, featuring 20 new Relay Node candidates that are unaffiliated with the entities behind Algorand. An Algorand project called AlgoMint also created a bridge between the Bitcoin and Ethereum blockchains, bridging BTC and ETH to Algorand's ecosystem. Shortly afterwards, a former Citibank executive established a $1.5 billion crypto fund with Algorand as its first partner, foreshadowing some serious cash flow into Algorand's ecosystem. During Algorand's Decipher conference in Miami at the end of November, Algorand saw some big announcements, such as a partnership with the city of Miami to monitor air quality. Algorand's head of engineering also did a keynote about Algorand's upcoming quantum security via state proofs. If you've watched my video about the crypto projects that could benefit from CBDCs, you might recall that the Federal Reserve was planning on testing quantum resistance for its digital dollar this year. Coincidence? I suppose we'll see. I digress. In early December, Borderless Capital announced that it would be pouring an additional $500 million into Algorand's ecosystem. That is another level of bullishness. The Algorand Foundation also announced that it would be expanding its Relay Node program to the Algorand community. In mid-December, the Algorand Foundation announced a liquidity mining program for Algorand's DeFi protocols as part of its $300 million Viridis fund. A few days later, a highly anticipated Algorand project called AlgoFi finally launched, and it has since become Algorand's top DeFi protocol with over $90 million in total value locked. In January, the Algorand Foundation confirmed the issuance of the first round of governance tokens to Algorand's governors. A drone racing company also partnered with Algorand to create an up-and-coming play-to-earn game on the Algorand blockchain. As a cherry on top, Grayscale revealed that it was considering the creation of an Algorand trust, which would make ALGO more accessible to institutional investors. In early February, the Algorand Foundation announced a proposal to establish an exclusive group of Algorand governors called Expert Governors who would table proposals. The Algorand Foundation also announced that it had selected Stacey Warden, a former JP Morgan executive, to be its CEO. At the ETH Denver conference, Stacey announced that the Algorand Foundation would be allocating $10 million to Algorand's Ethereum compatibility. The Algorand wallet also announced it had rebranded to the Pera wallet and released a roadmap that includes stuff like NFT support, a fiat on and off-ramp, DeFi protocol integrations, and access to Algorand's governance interface. In early March, Algorand underwent an upgrade that expanded its smart contract functionality, making it possible to create more complex dApps and setting the stage for Algorand's post-quantum features. In mid-March, a famous former peer-to-peer music platform called LimeWire also announced it would be relaunching as an NFT marketplace on Algorand. The Algorand Foundation also announced it would be phasing out its ALGO grants program and replacing it with various ecosystem funding programs going forward. 2 days later, the Algorand Foundation announced it had issued a grant to an Algorand project called the Algorand Name Service, which will make it possible to create human-readable NFTs that can double as wallet addresses. The day after that, the Algorand Foundation announced it had issued a grant to an Algorand project called ALGO Launch, an initial DEX offering launchpad for other up-and-coming Algorand projects. At the end of March, Grayscale announced the launch of its smart contract platform X Ethereum fund, which includes Algorand, though ALGO only accounts for about 4.4% of the fund's current allocation of $2.6 million. Anyhow, in mid-April, the Algorand Foundation bought up almost all the billboards in New York City's Times Square for Earth Day to send the message that cryptocurrency can be environmentally friendly. As I mentioned earlier, the Algorand Foundation also announced that a special smart contract would be created that will see a portion of all fees on the Algorand blockchain redirected to the purchase of carbon credits as part of the project's 2021 pledge to be carbon neutral. At the end of April, Algorand partnered with Flare Network to build additional bridges to other cryptocurrency blockchains. Now, this is interesting because Flare Network is a crypto project that's part of XRP's ecosystem, and you can learn more about it using the link in the description. Now, where was I? Yes, April updates. Another thing Algorand announced at the end of April was another proposal to further modify Algorand's governance process by introducing extra, quote, governance seats that would be filled by active participants in Algorand's ecosystem, including select users, developers, and relay node runners. Earlier this month, Algorand announced that it would be sponsoring the upcoming FIFA World Cup in Qatar for an undisclosed amount, but I imagine it's a lot. The sponsorship announcement included a long-term partnership between Algorand and FIFA, which of course includes the issuance of FIFA NFTs on the Algorand blockchain at some point in the future. More recently, Algorand announced that it had purchased another famous former peer-to-peer music platform called Napster with the help of HiveMind Capital. This makes me wonder if decentralized music streaming services will lead the next wave of crypto adoption. You should check out my video about Audius just in case. That will be in the description. Anywho, as amazing as all Algorand's announcements, updates, developments, and upgrades have been, ALGO is more than 50% below what it was when I last covered the project. This is for a few reasons. For starters, the crypto market has been taking a beating since November, and as many of you will know, this is because of the Federal Reserve's ongoing fight against inflation, which involves aggressively raising interest rates. And of course, as I record this, the markets are in freefall following the Terra Luna and UST debacle. It sure is chilly out there. Unfortunately, there are additional factors specific to Algorand that are holding down the price of ALGO too. As you might have gathered from my earlier comments, accelerated vesting has historically suppressed the price of ALGO because it allowed early investors to sell large amounts of it whenever it pumped. This is why ALGO only briefly surpassed its ICO price of $2.40 before being beaten down. Although accelerated vesting ended in early October last year, structured selling from the Algorand Foundation seems to have continued, and I suspect that Algorand Inc. has been offloading some of its ALGO as well. I'll leave details to the Algorand Foundation's structured selling methodology in the description, but the short explanation is that the Algorand Foundation can essentially sell as much ALGO as it wants, so long as ALGO's price doesn't crash by more than 10% within 24 hours. I wanted to find out exactly how much ALGO the Algorand Foundation has sold since September, but it looks like it hasn't published any transparency reports since that time. What I did find, however, is that ALGO's circulating supply has increased by more than 1.1 billion since September, according to CoinMarketCap's historical data, and by more than 900 million according to CoinGecko's historical data. So, if we take the middle amount of 1 billion and assume an average price of around $1 per ALGO during that time, it's possible that around $1 billion of ALGO has been sold since September. While it's unlikely that all this ALGO was actually sold, it seems more likely than not, especially with all the money the Algorand Foundation has been spending on expanding Algorand's ecosystem. Case in point, the $300 million in the Viridis fund is actually made up of 150 million ALGO that must be sold for fiat. I don't imagine that the FIFA sponsorship and partnership or the Napster acquisition were particularly cheap either. As basic economics dictates, all this ALGO selling wouldn't be a problem if there was sufficient demand for ALGO coming from elsewhere, But the problem is that the demand for ALGO seems to be lacking. For example, the ALGO Signer browser extension has just 20,000 downloads. To be fair, this is a 3x increase since my Algorand tutorial in October last year, which is not too shabby at all. However, the Pera ALGO wallet is still sitting at 100k downloads since October, and this suggests that the Algorand blockchain has fewer than 100,000 active users. According to DappRadar, Algorand's top dApps have only seen around 50,000 users over the last month. This is actually consistent with the number of ALGO holders who are actively participating in Algorand's governance, and I reckon there's quite a bit of overlap here. Now, the last demand indicator I want to discuss is total value locked, which is again sitting at around 150 million. Now, I find it hard to believe that all this money is coming from the few thousand users of Algorand's DeFi protocols. I suspect much of this money is coming from the Algorand Foundation's Liquidity Incentive Fund, which has allocated $200 million worth of ALGO to attracting TVL. As such, it's possible that most of the TVL in Algorand's DeFi protocols is just there to passively collect ALGO rewards. I will stress that this is just speculation on my part, and if the IMF's recent crypto report is anything to go by, it is quite possible that all this TVL on Algorand is actually coming from just a handful of whales. More about that in the description. Now, whether ALGO can reclaim its all-time highs and head to new ones ultimately depends on Algorand's upcoming milestones. The timeline here is obviously going to be a lot longer now that the bear market has set in. The introduction of Algorand's governance structure last autumn means it doesn't technically have a roadmap, but upcoming milestones can be found in interviews with and presentations by members of the Algorand team, notably Algorand founder Silvio Micali. In October last year, Algorand's Chief Operating Officer Sean Ford mentioned that it is in talks with central banks around the world to provide the infrastructure for their central bank digital currencies, though he didn't specify which ones, nor when these announcements will be officially made. Sean also mentioned that Algorand will soon be scaling to 10,000 transactions per second, thanks to next-generation scaling technologies that I detailed in my previous Algorand update. That's in the description, by the way. In December last year, Algorand's head of ecosystem, Adi Wagenknecht, mentioned that the goal is to get the total value locked in Algorand's DeFi protocols to at least $200 million, and that the Algorand Foundation is planning on spending $500 million to expand Algorand's ecosystem. I managed to find an additional milestone in the Algorand Foundation's FAQ section, and that's that participation rewards for Algorand governors will be removed in just a few days' time, possibly before this video hits the tube. It's not entirely clear how much this will affect ALGO's additional staking rewards. I also went looking for any upcoming proposals in Algorand's governance for additional milestones, but according to Algorand's governance forum, there currently aren't any measures that will be voted on in Algorand's next voting session. So, this brings me to some of the challenges I foresee for Algorand. The first one is Algorand's apparent lack of user adoption. Almost every smart contract cryptocurrency I've covered recently has seen exponential growth in its user base over the last few months alone, but this exponential growth isn't as apparent on Algorand. I reckon that this can be chalked up to the fact that the Algorand wallets used to interact with its dApps aren't nearly as familiar or as user-friendly as other browser extension wallets like MetaMask. It also doesn't help that ALGO's price has consistently underperformed, and that ties into the second challenge. Algorand's tokenomics still aren't all that terrific, and it seems that the end of accelerated vesting for ALGO's early investors hasn't helped with ALGO's price action at all. To make things worse, supply continues to hit the market. In fact, in a January presentation, the Algorand Foundation's former CEO, Sean Lee, actually celebrated the fact that ALGO's supply had increased from 1.4 billion to over 6.3 billion in 2021 alone. I honestly couldn't believe my ears. I've left a link in the description if you don't believe me. Again, all of this selling wouldn't be an issue if there was sufficient demand for ALGO, and if you ask me, the main reason why there isn't much demand for ALGO is because Algorand has focused its attention on catering to institutions and institutional investors instead of retail users and investors. As far as I can tell, Algorand has been trying to increase its institutional catering to Michelin star levels with its overtly aggressive push to be green. Now, I say overtly aggressive because the Algorand team has pulled no punches criticizing Bitcoin over its proof-of-work consensus, even though Bitcoin's energy use and emissions amount to a rounding error on the global scale. More about that in the description. In sum, therefore, Algorand has quite a few things to work on, but if its focus on institutional adoption proves to be fruitful, it could create the demand ALGO needs to definitively surpass its previous all-time highs. Rest assured that I'll be keeping a close eye on Algorand's development because there's no denying that it has cutting-edge tech, and I will never forgive myself if I don't get my hands on some ALGO before it starts to fly. And that's all for today's Algorand update. Take a second to smash that like button if you thought it was great. Remember to subscribe to the channel and ping that notification bell as well, because prices move quickly in this crypto bear market hell. Speaking of which, you can get more immediate crypto market updates on Coin Bureau Clips. If you're here for the long term, tune in to the Coin Bureau podcast to learn. You can also follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for memes and such, and join my Telegram channel for daily updates that make for a great crypto crutch. If you're wondering which cryptos I hold as part of my portfolio, my weekly newsletter is where you should go. I also tell you about the topics I'll be discussing in upcoming videos. And I'll quickly remind you all that it's not too late to participate in that free giveaway of one whole Bitcoin on FTX. You can find the details about that in the description and all the rest. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon. I know the markets are full of doom and gloom, but stick together and we'll all make it through.